Am I awake?
PG and I are looking for something we can operate on. We want something to fix.
I spent a lot of time in art school trying to make movies about how awful commercials were and how they overload your senses and obliterate your mind. And I think it's some kind of great cosmic irony that I ended up in the advertising business.
Part of me has always been interested in just making beautiful, interesting images. If there's content there, great. That just makes it perfect.
Chips ahoy!
I know it's an industry of dishonesty at some level where you're trying to make people believe and buy things that they don't necessarily need. And I've always been really aware of that crucial contradiction between kind of my philosophical soul and the reality of what I do every day. And that, on the face of that, that seems very ultimately potentially wrong. But if you can make something really fabulous and joyous in the process, it can really be a benefit to everybody. I don't think it has to be awful.
I always wanted to be a rock star.
I'm always looking at a way to put a spin on something, to sort of mess with it, you know, with it in a way that wasn't meant to happen. Like, I've sort of looked at ways of taking just straight live action and sort of manipulating it about 3 or 4 times and kind of putting sort of a different spin on reality, trying to make it a lot of times more electric or more kind of jittery or something, you know.
They would shoot live action segments with, you know, these sort of real life episodes in the hospital, and then later they would use these stills that would get layered over the top of their faces, and then the whole thing would come together. And that one, I thought it just really struck out. It was just beautiful in the way that you could still see the live action, but everything was animated, and it was just this perfect blend of it.
That Reese's ad is really the perfect example of a mixed media project, because it just, we had everything. The kitchen sink was in there, you know, it just was everything. Some parts of it are pixelated people, which is moving, you know, real people, a frame at a time, and there's CG peanut butter in there, there's drawn 2D drawing, so it's quite a bit.
We had to make peanut butter look fluid without looking disgusting, and it had to become water but still being peanut butter.
But at the end there's a shot where a hand reaches in, picks up the Reese's and shakes the animated character off it. Well, that candy had to stay in the middle all the time. That was one of the rules of that spot. So basically, she had to be unanimated. We had to animate everything around her, and then she had to be moved back to the center of wherever the frame was.
You okay there?
Great. I'm using muscles I never knew I had.
That's exciting.
He's interesting because he's frumpier than a real bear, you know, the coat of fur. He's part dog, which is man's best friend, that's in the mouth, and then he's part human in the eyes, and he's part bear. So we were trying to bring all these different elements together to try to make an not necessarily attractive, but a personality out of him. And we targeted it for 35-year-old women, and it came back that 50-year-old women didn't like him because he's a slacker. You know, he just wants to get all the ice cream he can without having to do any of the work. And what was really funny is that the men identified with it, which was not the target audience. And that's because you can be a frumpy, low-life couch potato bear, eat all the ice cream sandwiches you want, and you still get the girl. And that was the irony of, you know, where you direct a certain type of advertising, and it shows up in a completely different way. It's fun.
It's really great to be given these interesting limitations, and in that piece, the limitation was we had to make everything out of leaves. But it ended up being such a really beautiful piece. I love looking at it.
Even not so regular ones.
I sense a lot more nervousness in agencies where they're really much more kind of worried about losing a client. And at the same time, just a sort of more conservative kind of attitude out there in ad land where I think a lot of the kind of fun and edginess has sort of been held back a little bit, and I think it's just, you know, there's always these ebb and flows in the business, and I think at some point it'll come back.
Right now, the signal-to-noise ratio in advertising and in media is so high. The amount of actual stuff being pushed through all the different pipes, all the internet pipes and all the cable and all the other media, and, you know, it's the amount of movies made and all the video games, and, you know, the way your eyeballs are constantly bombarded makes it very difficult to make something unusual, different, and actually stand out in any way, because the level is constantly, you know, you're peeing into the ocean, really, to try to say, hey world, I'm here, I make a difference, right?
We kind of joke about it, and we say that, you know, Portland has more animators per capita than east of Bristol, England. And you know, it's probably not a mistake that, you know, the sun doesn't come out very often, here or there, you know, because it doesn't matter if you're inside animating because it's just raining outside anyway.
I was mesmerized by her and went night after night to see her perform.
I kind of divide the film commercials and filmmaking into sort of two very different categories that feed each other, but in my mind are very separate. The commercials are very interesting because you have the kinds of budgets you could never dream of having for your personal films. The deal with shorts is you're lucky to break even on them. But that's sort of one of the things about them that I've found is great, is that because there's not really a market for them, that it's not kind of, shall we say, corrupted by those sort of forces.
Knowing the creative process and being able to sell something while maintaining some kind of creative integrity is really a challenge. And this is such a great environment and a really unusual environment for advertising, you know, where you really see that happen. It's so rarely happens.
So, what do you do?
I smell.
Give Candy King cash. The Scratch and Sniff Holiday Scratch It.
Minty.
Getting an award or getting some kind of recognition for it is really totally shallow, or it doesn't fulfill you very much. So process, as I've gotten older, has really become the important thing. And that's what Bent's about.
Lorna, is it love you're missing? Lorna, is the one you're kissing, the one you can call a true love? Can it be? Can it be? Lorna, is it love you're missing? Lorna,
And my heart
is the one Can it be? Can it be? Lorna, is it love you're missing? Lorna, is the one you're kissing the one you can call? Can it be? Can it be?
Where does the drawing exist? Is it actual the performing and traveling, or is it the representation afterwards?
The Persuasion Equation, MediaTV.
Most uses for GPS are telling you where you want to go, and we've had to sort of re-engineer it to tell you where you've been, or make that the force of what we do. Global positioning system is a network of 24 or so satellites flying far above us and sending down these timing signals to this. This is a receiver picking up those signals and charting my movements like a dot-to-dot drawing. The radio signals that are sent down act like a giant ruler, and it trilaterates the signal to fix one's position on the surface of the Earth. And so no, there is no simple way of explaining it, or So here we are in Europe, and today we drew in a small field in Boars Hill around in England. This is here, and zoom in, and Oxford's down here, Boars Hill, here, and here. Well, we totally obliterated this field with GPS tracks, graffitied all over it with dogs and humans. These two dots up here will be the dogs running off the toy, and then they're...
And they're birds.
Yep,
you can tell.
These two bottom ones are human, top ones are dogs. And also, this is our journey to the pub, where we are now.
It's using this amazingly elaborate system of high-tech infrastructure to do a drawing, doodling around. And that's like using a high-powered laser in a top fusion laboratory to cook a baked bean.
We found a giant 13-mile-long fish hidden in the roads of Oxfordshire that we promptly charted and then jumped in the car and then traced out.
Worked out the directions.
And we did realise whilst drawing it that it was an absurd journey to undertake. A journey from A to A in the shape of a fish. We could play with it on the computer because it's all digital. So we can illustrate the same drawing in various ways, many ways. So these drawings can be fabricated very easily. If you had an aerial image, you could simply trace out something if you could identify it. But we do make a point of actually traveling, actually making the journey. It is what makes the work. We've had a series of shows. The first one we set about to organise ourselves because it's very difficult to say, okay, we're this, we've got this very odd art form that we'd like to decorate your walls with and attempt to sell and whatnot. So the first one was called Taking a Line for a Walk, and we really set about producing that show based upon work that we'd been doing for the last year. World's Biggest If was a journey we undertook starting from Iffley in Oxford, going down to Ifold, through Ifield, and then via Ifford. It was about 60 miles high or something.
And it works out, typographically, it works out as a point size of
319 million.
319 million.
So you're on your 12 point, 14 point, whatever on your screen, it's 319 million. Yeah, we've had contributions from Japan, the States, even Indonesia, and in the Far East, just GPS enthusiasts tracing their journeys and coming out with remarkable shapes. The idea about setting up the gallery on the website was that we wouldn't have to rely on any existing gallery system. There's a great tradition of land art and historical chalk figures carved into the landscapes around this country, and it's very...
But you're not leaving a physical trace, you're leaving a virtual trace.
There's so much that has to be done with this project, or this method of drawing. There's plenty to do yet.
Most of our billboards are Manhattan-based, so you may get a billboard from Times Square, where we are now. And it's, they come with their story, their history of what the billboard was, where it used to hang. A standard billboard would get about 100 to 150 messenger bags.
Small amount of people, a lot of money.
We wanted to make something out of recycled products, and we looked around at lots of different materials, looked at sales, all sorts of things. And living here in Manhattan, one day we're actually sitting in a bar, and suddenly thought, we've seen these billboards go up and down the city all the time, and just suddenly thought, well, I wonder what they're made out of. Every billboard is different. They have a print on it, and when the billboards come down, we cut them individually, and so each bag is going to be one of a kind. It's going to be different from any other. Hey guys. We were looking for a name for quite some time, and saw a picture of a donkey, and then later that night we were just tossing ideas around, and thought, oh, you know, donkey, it's a beast of burden, it carries stuff around. Then there was a little bit of a play on the fact that it was going to be New York, so it was going to be Donkey NY, which is fairly similar to another brand, DKNY. This one is it's a tail light from a car, and you can see it reflecting there. This is also from the car, that's like the name on the back of the car. Whereas this one is from a computer monitor. Hi, Jim. Good to see In each bag we put a card with a web address, but it has a billboard number, so it identifies which billboard it came from. So you go into the section, the history of your donkey product, and look it up. For example, this number 1090. If we choose a billboard number, it tells you a bit about that billboard, what it was, where it used to hang, etc. We have a link through to a map showing you exactly which corner it used to hang in Manhattan. People love the fact that it is a recycling product. It has the New York link, which everyone sort of feels an attachment to New York. We've actually had a number of advertisers contact us. They've run outdoor advertising campaigns, and rather than just take the billboards and have them thrown away, which is say happens to most of them, they want to turn them into things, either as gifts for important clients or staff, or just for us to reuse them to on-sell to avoid them going to the landfill. The advertisers whose billboards we're using get the acknowledgement that they're recycling. Also, the history of the bag says what the billboard was, so the advertiser can continue their marketing effectively once the billboard comes down. It's not the end of their campaign. You tend not to read the billboard for what it is anymore, you start looking at it for what it can be. It certainly makes you look up a lot more as you're wandering around the city. You walk around and you look at billboards and you say, oh, well that would make a good bag.